Hello, and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. Today I am working on a series of requested watercolor paintings. Previously, it was a swamp scene with a cabin within it. And today, well, in this one, it's going to be Sans cabin. Mainly focusing on a cypress tree, working on the S-shape composition, and just getting that inside of a swamp feel. So in front of me, I have a sheet of paper that's a little bit larger than 8 by 10. It's Stonehenge Aqua, 140-pound cold press. I just coated it with water, so I'm going to paint wet and wet. And I marked it to approximately where the inside of a mat would be, just to kind of give me guidelines. Now, with these requests, they had wanted a little bit more color within the scene. So I'm going to go with my yellow ochre. I'll bring that down below. And I put out some cerulean blue. Put it out earlier today. It's already kind of dry, I guess from using the blow dryer near it. Let's see how this turns out. Let me flatten it. Previously, I was struggling with flattening this size paper. I'm not quite sure why, because I don't have trouble with the Stonehenge Aqua usually, but it might just be the orientation and the size. Let's grab some cleaner. Cerulean blue. A lot of this is going to be covered up, but I'll put these ideas here. Now, within Louisiana, there's a few different types of water. We have very muddy, brackish water down where I am. And in order to get to clear water, you have to head about a 45-minute drive to the east, to the Atchafalaya Basin. There's some clear water in there. There's also some very brackish, dark spots. In fact, one location has a spot where you get a meeting of clear water and the brackish water, the muddy water, and it's very interesting watching it mix. Then, I think in the other direction to get to clear water, I think it's Toledo Bend's, the Mermentau. I think that's about a 2-hour drive to the west of me. I went out there once at night, so I really don't recall too much about that location. I didn't see the water there, so I don't know. But I know it's a big fishing spot. I'm going to have background trees. I think I'm going to have them rise pretty high. And then in front, we're going to have a cypress tree. And here, I'll have a grouping of the cypress as well. Bring some of that reflection down. And here's where the big tree is going to sit. So, definitely a different approach than the previous one. I'm going to work my way back to front, putting in tree trunks, making a little bit of a darker mix. And this is going to dry soft. It's going to diffuse and dry lighter. So a lot more color than I usually use. Probably less color than most people use, especially since I'm a huge fan of the really moody and monochromatic tonalist painting styles. But if something is requested, I love to give it a go. Let's see. So that was the number 1 rigger. Put a little bit of dark in here. Now here's going to be that cypress tree line. I'm going to bring it up a little bit higher. I'm going to bring it out to about the middle. We're going to have the reflection of the cypress tree. So I'm looking like I'm going to put it right in here. Kind of doing the shadows first because I prefer to have the wet and wet water there. I will kind of pass over it and change things as things happen, but I do like getting that effect started for shadows or reflections. I'll get some dark here. I have these large puddles of water that I'll just kind of soak up a little bit. Let's see. Burnt umber and ultramarine. I believe this is kind of the cutoff right here. They wouldn't be seen if a mat's going over it, but I like to paint to the edges, and having that little bit of leeway will give me some options of where I want to go if a mat goes on top of this one. Just pull that there. Now, one thing that I'm going to have to be careful of is looking for, when I put my foliage onto my foreground tree, I don't want the branches behind it to appear like they're coming from that tree. So I'm going to have to be careful with the placement of that. It's just something to keep in mind whenever you're layering trees. And to reference anybody that I've seen layer trees in this fashion, I would say Stephen Cronin. How much further do I want to go in the wet and wet stage? I think this kind of bluish is enjoyable, and the green that came from it mixing with the yellow ochre is quite nice. The water wouldn't be this blue. And then do a pass for the reflections. I could even pull a cypress tree here, but I have to be careful overlapping it. Pull that down. This is going to crop this edge and bring the eye there. Yeah, I think we're going to have a cypress here, and we'll have a group of trees, and kind of a landmass right there. We'll see how that comes out. All right, so on that note, I'm going to do a dry off, and we'll see where we're at. I'm going to have to hold the blow dryer kind of far away because it's so wet. It's going to push pigment around. So even though you're just going to see the stop and then the start where if it's done, I have to put a little bit more time into the blow drying. All right, so we're pretty dry. I used, like I had said, the blow dryer higher up so I didn't push stuff around. We had that puddle of water down here, and that's the after effect of that. So I think in future videos, I'll just wind up tracing or pulling around the water edges. That's what I should have done more of. All right, so I think this is essentially the matte line if it was to take place. But let's put some foliage here. So we're trying to create a sense of depth in that location where we have our closer trees. We see just slight reminiscent of the ones behind them. And we need to set them in place. We don't want the tree just to appear like it's floating. And I talked about putting some trees right here, so I'm just almost kind of grounding them. Here is where my cypress is going to be. Let's put some more trees back here. I think I need to water it down more. It will dry softer. We'll have that tonal shift, but I have to be wary. I want my foreground or midground cypress tree to pop forward against that. So more just watery mixes. Let's ground these. Bring that outcropping out a little bit. The undergrowth, that's symbolizing its shadow reflection. I think I'm going to pass some more trees on top. There you go. So you see that lighter wash. Now there's a few things we can actually talk about while we do this. I believe it's in Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting. There's an interesting diagram that shows line widths or object widths in black on a white background, and I think vice versa. Where as an object is thinner, it's going to have more kind of a wraparound of light around it, and it's going to appear lighter in tonal value. So the idea is if you were to do small tree trunks, small branches, those are going to be lighter than your thicker tree trunks and your thicker branches. Now, another thing to keep in mind with that is that you could just really exploit the idea of atmospheric perspective, and as things recede into the background, they're going to be lighter in value. Reason being is between us and those objects, you have all the particles, molecules, gases, etc. that make up air, and that kind of just blocks it out. Kind of pushes everything more towards a blue as you get further out. So next time you're driving, if you can safely see something in the distance, look at that object or tree compared to a tree that's closer to you, and see how that one pushes to the bluer side of things. And since we're at this stage, I can play around with my cypress knees and my cypress itself. So with the cypress tree, if I have it, here's the bottom line. I'm going to have a cypress come up here. And there's different types of cypress. I believe that the ones that I'm referring to are the bald cypress. They have almost kind of like a blasted looking trunk. So not only do they kind of taper in, they almost look rotted out in spots. And I'm not sure what causes that. I'm not sure if it's an actual death of the tree or just the way it forms. But you'll also see a water line on them as the water in the area goes up and down. Then they have these knees, which are just the roots kind of popping up, these little growths all around it, which can be a homeowner's nightmare. They push up foundations and mess things up, so it's just something you want to keep an eye out for with that. Then my other one is going to go about here. I usually would complete more of the tree. I'm just trying to establish my locations for them, as I'm going into a little bit more detail in the background and exploring a composition that I haven't done in a while, and just exploring the cypress trees in general. Might even do a second tree right there, kind of like two along here. I'll bring them up, but I want to have more going on in the background. I'm also looking at this matte line. I want it to be thicker than this line back here. So that would be a concept of linear perspective. Let's see. Let me pause for my dry off. We'll see where we're at. All right. So let's see. I want a lighter mix. And I'm trying not to pass over the pre-existing ones. Just a few dots can give me the representation of it being a cypress. Giving us those hooks. I think this third layer in the background is the way to go. We could have a lighter one right in on this inside edge. Bring that fella up here. We could even use some to bring this edge down. We can do something very similar with the lighter cypress on top. You can give them a pal. There's actually another lake that has a lot of old cypress in it. Lake Martin. However, Lake Martin has like a lot of alligators. And I used to kayak and I would go there, and then one day I was like, enough is enough. Where usually the alligators are cool, they really don't cause any trouble or anything like that. But I guess it was just so hot that they were just super active and super aggressive, and I'm pretty sure I had a stump or a log alongside me just go underneath the water, and I was just like, was that big thing an alligator? No, thank you. Because alligators usually don't attack people. I think it's more crocodiles. The more aggressive. We don't have crocodiles here. I believe they're in Florida. But yeah, it's not the coolest. Let's see what type of foliage I can put. I'm gonna bring in this edge right there. I think I want this spot darker. Using ultramarine and burnt umber for my darks. Just cropping in that edge so that wouldn't show up, but we can even put some branches for whatever form that is. There we go. All right, so now on to these cypress trees. Now having one or two here, going to have a slight issue. So there's a few things I need to watch out for. And I mentioned this earlier where I really don't want to paint directly over background trees to the point that it looks like the branches from that are part of this guy. I think that's a good setup right there. The other thing is I have to make this one a little bit larger just for perspective purposes, or I could put them with more detail for perspective purposes, or make them warmer to help them pop forward. So mix a little bit of burnt sienna in here. I think we're just going to see the whole trunk for this guy. Maybe we'll see some foliage. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. I'm going to put a black edge along them. Make sure I bring down here. And I'm going to use my yellow ochre. So yellow ochre in the background, yellow ochre in the foreground to catch the light on this guy and on his knees. Let's see. Burnt umber, just mixing that into this mix with black, just darkening him up. let's see. Let's bring a little foliage down from the top. Do I want another cypress tree here? That's what I'm debating. I'm going to pause for a dry off, and that'll help me get an idea. All right, so everything for me seems a little floaty, meaning that it's really not grounded in place. So what I'm going to first do is play around with this distant horizon. I want to find the grayish purple, and I want back here to put and tie these shapes together. Creating even a further S-shaped composition from this. Let's make this a little bit higher up. The idea of distant trees. And ahead of schedule, I'll put some birds flying up. Now, here's some reflections for these guys. Reflections for these guys. See if that's helping set things in place. So we have a lot of this empty fishing area. And I'm going to get back to the cypress trees in a moment, but I just feel like there's things that are missing with this composition. So what I'm going to do is pause the camera for a moment and look for a magic eraser. All right. So now here's the deal with magic erasers. They you can buy them for cheap at, I think, the dollar store. I think the name brand is pretty expensive, so just you find the dollar store or you order just a pack off of Amazon and they'll last you a lifetime. It's an abrasive, so there's no chemicals from what I understand. And that being said, apparently you don't want to use it on dishware because of like this fine particles. I guess either they scrub and cause issues with your dishware. I had gotten a desk secondhand, and I used a kind of magic eraser to just try to clean it up, and it pulled the finish off of it. So it's just, I guess, like a sanding, but it works really well. You cut it to the shape you need. So what I'm doing is just bringing that reflection down. And I think that's helping me create some interest there. I do have that little splotch from my arm right there, but we'll come back to that. So I store these magic erasers, the pack. I had it up high on a shelf, and then I put them in the closet in the art room. The reason I say that is that I've been mentioning that closet quite a bit in the past few videos, because Hammy has been like all about that closet, just trying to get in there. And now Percy, moments ago, I guess had heard me open it up, so she came running, and she was just sitting outside that door looking and seeing what's going on. So this is that yellow ochre, using it to accent these fellas. And these knees can pop up all over, so I can use them to kind of fill space, or if I want to get a rhythm going. I think I need a cypress tree here. Or I don't necessarily need, but I want a cypress tree here. Got to be careful since he's going up right between those two background ones. But I think the reason I'm leaning towards that is that I want to put something here right on this edge. I have some S-shaped compositions taking place, but this is definitely a tunnel shape. Just using the finger to slide that out. I could bring, this is like dead center of the paper, but let's see. Bring the knees out. That'll force more of an S shape. I can even do another layer back here with a little bit more warmer colors that are on the brush. Let's go back to our purple, which is just the light, sorry, ultramarine and the light red oxide. I could just bring that in. Is this dead center? Yeah. Let's see. Hey, Percy Poo. What's up? You supercharging? Yeah. Aw, my Pooh. Percy Poo. I like when like a cat runs in or jumps in and goes, "Ugh." Throw some Cypress knees back down here. I could even extend some lamp black. Use that lamp black to create the foliage. I think what might be nice is just kind of a little bit of grass. A little bit of branch action. A little bit more yellow ochre. Let me pause the camera for a moment. All right, I'm gonna unclip for a second just to see, or I could probably just put a mat on top and then I'll move it back into place to see how we're looking. It looks good with a mat. It's interesting. I want to bring more foliage down. I want to create this form. So that's where I am at with this. So let's see what we can do with this guy right here. We could let him become some cypress knees in the foreground. kind of carve and shape some of these trunks. Here's some burnt sienna. And I talked about bringing foliage down. Let's see. I think we'll start wrapping this one up. So, as always, you're welcome to follow along. I'll put, if you want, this picture up on the Patreon if you want to download it to follow along. So that'll be a downloadable for members of the Patreon. So thank you for those of you that support this channel through that. If it wasn't for y'all, and if it wasn't for people liking, subscribing, and commenting, I don't think I'd be have the encouragement to film all these and to try these different experiments. So I really enjoy that and really appreciate that you all appreciate it. And I love when people tag me and share works that they did, either quote unquote in the style of Andrew Broussard or following along with one of the tutorials. So really appreciate that, and that means a lot. I believe I mentioned some other painters that have YouTubes because, having learned from some of them, I want to give credit where credit is due. And I hope that you all have fun and enjoy. I might do a little bit of off-camera work, but I will end it here. So thank you all so much, and have a great day. Bye.